My name is Margaret Williams, and I'm 63 years old. For years now, I have lived alone in this small house on the edge of town. The silence fills every room. My children stopped visiting long ago, and most days, I wonder if anyone even remembers that I'm still here. But that morning, everything changed. It was just before sunrise when I heard a faint cry outside my door. At first I thought I was dreaming, but then it came again, soft and desperate. My heart raced as I opened the door. And there, lying on my porch, was a baby wrapped in a warm blanket. I froze. The world around me disappeared, and all I could see was this tiny face, trembling and alone. My hands shook as I lifted her, pressing her against my chest. She was warm, fragile, and helpless. I whispered, "Who left you here? Who trusted me with you?" In that moment, something awakened inside me. A feeling I thought had died long ago. The need to protect, to love, to belong. That night, when I finally closed my eyes, I dreamed of my mother. She was standing in the light, her voice steady and calm. She looked at me the way she used to when I was a little girl and said, "You are not alone anymore." When I woke, the baby was still in my arms, and I knew my life would never be the same. I spent the whole morning staring at the baby in my arms, afraid to let go, afraid to even breathe too hard. She was so tiny, her skin soft as silk, her little hands curling and uncurling as if searching for something familiar. I couldn't stop watching her. Every small movement felt like a miracle. I placed her in the middle of my old couch, surrounded by pillows, and just sat across from her. My house had never felt so alive. The quiet that used to suffocate me was now filled with the gentle rhythm of her breathing. But soon the questions came rushing in. Who would abandon such a child? Why here, at my door? And what right did I have to keep her? I walked to the kitchen and picked up the phone. My hand trembled as I started dialing the police. It was the logical thing to do, the responsible thing. But before the call went through, I stopped. If I reported her, they would take her away. She would end up in some system, passed from hand to hand. And me? I would go back to this silence, emptier than before. I put the phone down. I made her a small bottle with the supplies I had saved from when my granddaughter visited years ago. I didn't even know if I was doing it right, but she drank slowly, her eyes half closed, and for the first time in so long, I felt useful, needed. That night, after rocking her in my arms until she slept, I placed her gently in a laundry basket lined with blankets. I sat beside her, too afraid to leave her alone. When I finally drifted into sleep, I dreamed of my mother again. She was standing in our old kitchen, her hands folded, her eyes kind. She whispered, "This child is your gift. Don't let fear take her away." I woke up with tears on my face. The baby stirred and reached out, her tiny fingers brushing against my skin, and I knew, deep inside, that she was meant to be here. The next morning I carried the baby to the front porch, wrapped tightly in a fresh blanket. The sun was just rising, painting the street in soft gold. For a brief moment I let myself believe this could be normal. Me, an old woman with a baby, rocking gently on the porch, like it was always meant to be. But peace never lasts long in this neighborhood. I noticed Karen from across the street. She was already watching, her arms crossed, lips pressed into a sharp line. Karen had lived here almost as long as I had. She was the type who knew everyone's business, or thought she did. She wasted no time crossing the street. "Well, well," she said, her voice thick with suspicion. "And just whose baby is this, Margaret?" I shifted in my chair, holding the child closer. "She was left on my porch," I answered quietly. Karen raised an eyebrow, her gold bracelets jingling as she leaned in. "Left? On your porch? Do you expect anyone to believe that at your age?" Her words stung, but I stayed silent. I wasn't about to hand this baby over to gossip. Karen glanced around, as if making sure the whole street could hear her. You know, people are talking already. Some say you finally lost it after being alone for so long. Others think you went out and found this child yourself. I felt heat rising in my chest. That's not true, I said firmly. She was left here. I didn't ask for this, but I won't turn my back on her. Karen smirked, tilting her head. We'll see about that. Somebody needs to call the right people before this gets out of hand. She walked away with that satisfied sway of hers, and I knew exactly what she meant. She would make the call. She would turn my blessing into a scandal. As I watched her disappear into her house, I held the baby tighter, whispering, "They won't take you from me. Not if I can help it." But deep inside, fear settled heavy in my chest. I knew trouble was coming. By the third day, word had spread faster than I could have imagined. I could feel it in the way neighbors stared when I stepped outside, in the way curtains moved whenever I carried the baby to the porch. But the hardest blow came from my own blood. The phone rang that afternoon. I knew the number before I answered. My daughter, Linda. We hadn't spoken in months. "Mother," she said, her tone clipped, already sharp. "Is it true? Are you parading around town with some baby that isn't yours?" I swallowed hard. "She was left on my doorstep, Linda. I couldn't just turn her away. She's innocent." There was a pause, then a bitter laugh. "You don't change, do you? Always taking on more than you could handle. Always trying to fix things you had no business touching. Do you even hear yourself? You're 63. You can barely keep up with your own health, and now you think you can raise a baby?" Her words cut deep, reopening wounds that had never really healed. Linda had never forgiven me for the mistakes I made raising her. I was too strict, then too soft, then too absent, at least in her eyes. And now, everything I did was wrong again. "You don't understand," I whispered. "This child, she feels like she was meant to be here, like she was given to me." Linda's voice hardened. "Or maybe you just can't stand being alone. Maybe that's all this is, your desperation." I clutched the baby tighter. My voice shook, but I found enough strength to answer. "Call it what you want, but I won't abandon her. Not like she was abandoned before." Silence filled the line. Then Linda's words came cold and final. "If you don't give that child to the authorities, I will. And when I do, you'll lose her forever." The call ended. I sat there, my hands trembling, the baby sleeping peacefully against my chest. Tears slipped down my face. I had lost my daughter years ago, but this felt like losing her all over again. Still, as I looked down at the tiny life in my arms, I knew one thing for certain. I wasn't going to let go, not without a fight. The doorbell rang just after noon. I froze, the baby in my arms, my heart pounding as if it already knew what was waiting on the other side. When I opened the door, a tall young man stood there, neatly dressed in a pressed shirt and tie, holding a clipboard. His voice was polite, but carried the weight of authority. "Mrs. Williams, my name is Daniel Brooks. I'm with Child Protective Services. I need to speak with you about the child in your care." My throat went dry. So Linda had made good on her threat. I stepped aside reluctantly, cradling the baby close. "Come in." He entered the living room, his eyes scanning the space with professional detachment. The baby bottles lined on the counter, the laundry basket I had turned into a makeshift crib, the worn blankets folded neatly. "She was left on my porch," I explained quickly, my voice shaking. "I didn't go looking for her. I found her, and I couldn't just leave her out there alone." Daniel nodded, scribbling notes. "I understand. But by law, every abandoned child must be placed under state care until we can determine custody or locate the birth mother." His words sliced through me. I held the baby tighter, rocking her instinctively. "You don't understand. She needs me. She was sent here for a reason. For the first time, Daniel looked up from his clipboard. His eyes softened, but only for a moment. I don't doubt that you care, Mrs. Williams. I can see that. But this isn't about feelings. It's about legal responsibility. I felt the weight of the world pressing down on me. So what happens now? I whispered. Daniel hesitated before answering. I'll file my report. A hearing will be scheduled. Until then, I'll be checking in. But please, prepare yourself. The child may be placed in foster care very soon. He stood, offered me a polite nod, and left as quietly as he had come. The moment the door shut behind him, I broke. My knees buckled and I sank to the floor, clutching the baby as if my arms alone could shield her from the world. I won't let them take you, I whispered through tears. Not while I still have breath in me. But deep down, fear gnawed at my soul, because for the first time, I realized this wasn't just a fight against gossip or loneliness. This was a fight against the law itself. That night I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Daniel's face, his careful words, his clipboard filled with notes that could take the baby away from me. I sat in my chair, rocking her until my arms ached, afraid that if I let go, even for a moment, she would vanish. Sometime before dawn, I drifted into sleep. In the dream, I was standing in the old kitchen of my childhood home. The sunlight spilled across the worn wooden floor, and I could smell cornbread baking, just the way Mama used to make it. And there she was, my mother, tall and graceful, her dark skin glowing with the same strength I had always admired. Her hair was tied back in a simple scarf, her apron dusted with flour, just as I remembered her. Mama? My voice cracked as I spoke. I hadn't called her name in years, not since she passed. She looked at me with eyes so full of love it made my chest ache. Margaret, she said softly, why are you so afraid? I shook my head, tears streaming down my face. They want to take her away from me. I'm too old, they say. I don't have the right, but Mama, I feel like she was given to me, like she was meant to be mine. Mama reached for my hands, her touch warm and steady. This child is not an accident. She was placed in your care for a reason. You have carried loneliness long enough. Now it is time to carry love again. Her voice was clear, stronger than any doubt inside me. Do not let fear steal this gift. Fight for her. Protect her. Because in saving her, you will save yourself. I wanted to stay there forever in the safety of her words, in the warmth of her hands. But the dream began to fade, the kitchen dissolving into darkness. I woke with a start, the baby stirring in her basket beside me. I bent over and touched her tiny hand, her fingers curling instinctively around mine. And I knew, with a certainty I had never felt before, that Mama was right. This wasn't just a chance. This was a calling. I whispered, "You're mine, little one. No matter what comes, I will fight for you." On Sunday morning, I wrapped the baby in a soft blanket and walked slowly down the street to the small church I had avoided for years. My legs were heavy, not from the distance, but from the weight of everything pressing against me. The gossip, Linda's anger, the social worker's warning, the fear of losing the only joy I had left. Pastor John was standing by the door, greeting people as they came in. His face lit up when he saw me, though I hadn't set foot inside that church since my husband's funeral. "Margaret," he said warmly, his deep voice carrying a kindness I didn't know I needed until that moment. "It's been too long." I nodded, holding the baby close. I don't even know why I came." "Yes, you do," he said gently. "Your heart brought you here." Inside the sanctuary smelled faintly of wood and old hymnals. The choir was already singing, their voices rising like a prayer that belonged to all of us. I sat in the back pew, the baby resting peacefully in my arms, and for a brief moment I let the music wash over me. After the service, I asked Pastor John if we could talk. He led me into his small office, lined with worn books and a single-framed photo of his late wife. I told him everything. About the baby on my porch, about Karen's accusations, Linda's threats, and Daniel's visit. About the dream with my mother and the words that still echoed inside me. When I finished, I looked at him desperately. Pastor, what if they're right? What if I'm too old, too broken, too alone? What if I can't do this? He leaned forward, folding his hands. Margaret, faith isn't about waiting for life to make sense. Faith is choosing to act even when everything around you tells you not to. You've been given this child for a reason. You feel it in your bones, don't you? I nodded, tears welling up. Yes, I feel it with every part of me. Then listen to that. Fear will always try to silence love, but love is stronger. If you truly believe she was meant to be with you, then don't let anyone take her without a fight. His words settled deep inside me. For the first time in days, the fear in my chest eased, replaced by something steadier, stronger. When I left the church, the baby pressed against me. I whispered into her curls, "We're not giving up. Not now, not ever." The courthouse smelled of old wood and disinfectant, the kind of place where lives are judged in minutes and stamped with final decisions. I had never been inside one before, not like this. My knees trembled as I walked in, clutching the baby to my chest, as though the warmth of her body could steady me. Daniel was already there, his suit pressed, his expression careful and unreadable. He gave me a small nod, but I could see the weight of his responsibility in the way he held his papers. And then I saw her, Linda, my daughter. She sat on the opposite bench, arms folded, her face hard as stone. Her eyes wouldn't even meet mine. Karen was there too, dressed in her best, as if this were her chance to shine. Her jewelry caught the light as she whispered something to the person beside her, smirking when she glanced in my direction. The judge, a woman with stern eyes and a voice that carried authority, entered the room. "Mrs. Williams," she said, "we are here to discuss the matter of this child's custody." I stood slowly, every bone in my body shaking. "Your Honor," I began, my voice barely above a whisper. I didn't go looking for her. She was left at my door. I couldn't just close it and walk away. Linda's voice cut in, sharp and cold. "Your Honor, my mother is not well. She is 63 years old, living alone, barely managing herself. This is not about love. This is about her desperation to fill a void." My chest tightened. It felt like every failure from my past was standing in that room, testifying against me. Karen chimed in eagerly. "I've lived across from her for years. Everyone knows Margaret has become unstable since her husband died. She imagines things. We can't risk a baby's life on her delusions." Their words pierced me like knives, but I stood my ground. I may be old. I may have made mistakes, but this child is safe with me. She is cared for, loved, protected. Isn't that what every baby deserves? The judge listened, her face unreadable. Finally, she spoke. "This is not a decision to be made lightly. I will postpone my ruling until further evidence is presented. Mrs. Williams, you may keep the child in your care for now, but be prepared for a final decision soon." Her gavel struck, and the room emptied. I sat down, my arms tightening around the baby, my body trembling. They wanted to take her from me. My own daughter wanted to take her from me. But as I looked into the baby's eyes, wide and trusting, I whispered to myself, "I won't let this be the end. I will fight until my last breath." That night, after the hearing, I sat in my bedroom with the baby sleeping beside me in her basket. The silence felt heavier than ever, pressing down on my chest until I could barely breathe. I had tried to be strong, but the judge's words echoed in my mind. Be prepared for a final decision soon. My daughter's accusations, Karen's venom, Daniel's silence, all of it played on repeat, tearing at me from the inside. I pressed my face into my hands and whispered, maybe they're right. Maybe I can't do this. Maybe I was a fool to think God or fate or anyone would trust me with such a gift. The baby stirred, letting out a soft cry. I lifted her into my arms, rocking her gently, but my tears fell onto her tiny face. I pulled her close, whispering through broken sobs, I'm so scared they'll take you, and if they do, I don't know how I'll survive it. For the first time since she arrived on my porch, I allowed the thought of losing her to settle inside me. It hollowed me out, leaving me shaking, empty and weak. I laid back on the bed, holding her against my chest. My body ached with exhaustion, my spirit crushed. I can't fight anymore, I whispered into the dark. I'm too tired. But then she moved, just a little. Her tiny fingers curled around the chain of the old locket I wore around my neck, the one Mama had given me years ago. I looked down at her, her face calm, her breathing steady, and something stirred deep inside me. She didn't know fear. She didn't know gossip or judgment or courtrooms. All she knew was the comfort of my arms, the beat of my heart, the warmth that told her she was safe. And in that moment I realized she wasn't giving up on me. So how could I give up on her? I kissed her forehead and whispered stronger this time, I will not let you go. Not now. Not ever. I lay there, clutching her close, the tears still flowing. But this time, they were not only tears of despair. They were tears of defiance, because even at my breaking point, love refused to break. The storm came late that evening. Rain beat against the windows, and the wind rattled the old frame of the house. I sat in the living room with the baby on my lap, her warmth steadying me against the darkness pressing in from outside. Then came the knock. Hard, desperate. My heart jumped. I opened the door slowly, and there she stood, a young woman maybe no older than 20, soaked through from the rain. Her eyes were swollen from crying, her hands shaking as she clutched the porch railing for balance. Please, she said, her voice breaking. Is she here? My baby? Is she here? My breath caught. I tightened my hold on the child instinctively. You're her mother? The young woman nodded, her tears mixing with the rain on her face. I didn't want to leave her. I didn't know what else to do. I had nowhere, no one. I thought she'd die if I kept her with me, so I left her here, praying someone would love her the way I couldn't. Her words tore at me, a mixture of pain and recognition. I knew what it was to feel abandoned, to feel empty, to be judged for failing. And now here was this girl, carrying all of that in her trembling body. I stepped aside, letting her in. She fell to her knees in front of me, reaching out to touch the baby's hand. The little one stirred but did not cry. She's beautiful, the young woman whispered. I named her Hope before I let her go. I wanted her to have what I never had. I felt my chest tighten. Why now? Why come back? She looked up at me with eyes full of sorrow. Because I couldn't sleep. I couldn't breathe. I left a piece of myself on your porch, and I can't go on without knowing she's safe. But I can't take her back. I can't give her what she deserves. You can. Her words left me stunned. This young mother, broken and fragile, was giving me the very thing I had been fighting for. I cradled the baby against me, tears sliding down my face. Then let me stand for her. Let me fight for her. If you'll tell the truth, maybe the judge will listen. Maybe she won't be lost in the system. The girl nodded, her shoulders trembling. I'll do it. I'll tell them everything. She belongs with you. As thunder roared outside, I felt something shift inside me. For the first time, I wasn't standing alone against the storm. The courthouse felt colder the second time. The same wooden benches, the same smell of dust and old paper. But this time, I wasn't alone. The young mother, Hope's mother, walked in beside me, her hands trembling but her chin lifted high. When the judge entered, the room grew still. Daniel was there, ready with his notes. Linda sat stiffly, her arms crossed, her eyes filled with judgment. And Karen, of course, had come back, eager to see me fail. The judge called the case to order. Daniel began, outlining the facts, reminding the court of the procedures. My chest tightened as every word reminded me how close I was to losing her. Then the young mother stepped forward. Her voice shook at first, but soon her words came clear. She told the court everything, how she had no family, no money, no home, how she had left her baby on my porch because she believed I would care for her, how she had come back because she couldn't live with the guilt. The room was silent. Even Linda lowered her eyes. The judge turned to me. "Mrs. Williams, you have no legal tie to this child, but it is clear you have given her love and safety. Tell me, why should I place her in your care?" I stood, holding Hope against me. My voice was steady, though my hands shook, because she was given to me, not by chance, but by purpose. She is not a burden, she is my blessing. I may not have much time left in this world, but every moment I have I will spend loving and protecting her. Isn't that what a mother is meant to do? Silence stretched through the room. The judge leaned back, eyes thoughtful. Finally, she spoke. "Given the testimony of the biological mother and the clear bond formed between Mrs. Williams and this child, the court grants temporary guardianship to Mrs. Williams with the option for permanent custody pending further review." Her gavel struck. The sound rang like freedom. I clutched Hope close as tears spilled down my face. The young mother reached for my hand, whispering, "Thank you." For the first time, I let myself breathe. Hope was mine, not by blood, not by law alone, but by love. And that was stronger than anything in the world. The days after the hearing passed quietly, but my heart felt lighter than it had in years. I no longer woke to an empty house. Every morning, Hope's soft cry called me into the day, and every night, her steady breathing carried me into sleep. I would sit on the porch with her in my arms, rocking slowly as the sun set, and I realized how much had changed. The silence that once felt like a prison was now filled with life. The loneliness that used to weigh me down had been replaced with purpose. Sometimes I thought of Linda, of the distance between us that might never heal. Sometimes I thought of Karen still peeking from her window, her whispers sharp as knives. But none of that mattered anymore, because when I looked into Hope's eyes, I saw more than struggle. I saw a future. And in the quiet of my heart, I often heard my mother's voice, steady as always. "You are not alone anymore." She was right, I wasn't alone. Not ever again. So if you've ever felt forgotten, if you've ever believed that your time has passed, hear this. Love has no age, and miracles don't always come with trumpets. Sometimes they come wrapped in a worn blanket, left on your doorstep in the dark. And when they do, you hold on, you fight, you believe, because love, once it finds you, will never let you go.